How's it going, everyone? Welcome to Out of the Groove. Today, I am joined by Mike Birch, the Chief Strategy Officer at Speedway Motorsports. Mike, thanks for joining us. It's a big week. Obviously, Bristol, the night race is coming up in just a few short days. It sounds like maybe the whole Cup Series schedule is going to be released here very, very soon. But first off, thanks for joining. Thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, a lot going on. Should be a great race at Bristol this weekend on all three series, but especially on the Cup side, where got a whole bunch of guys who have to either run well or win the race to advance to the next round. So the cutoff races, especially at Bristol, are always really exciting.
Absolutely. People watching this know that I've said this many times, but Bristol Motor Speedway is my favorite track. I've been there a couple of times now. It's amazing in person. So I expect to see it, put on its usual greatness this weekend at the night race. But what can fans attending this year's night race expect to see at and around the track? I saw some big news this week, coolers being allowed back in. I know that's a big thing fans were wondering about. So what else can fans expect to see this weekend?
Well, mostly other fans, as we have kind of going through this ongoing, evolving pandemic, and trying to figure out how do we move forward and what is right to keep fans safe first and foremost, but then make sure people get back to enjoying racing that they've always enjoyed. That's one of the big things we've heard from fans is the tradition of coming to the racetrack, and fans have their traditions at the race weekend, whether it's camping in the same camping space or going visit the same haulers, sure, or catching up with friends or whatever it is. So that's the biggest thing. And generally everything's staying very similar in the season of change. It should have a great truck race on Thursday night, and then the Xfinity race on Friday night, and then Saturday night drop the green flag and see who advances to the next round. And maybe some hurt feelings, maybe some confrontations. You never know what's going to happen.
We can only hope. Well, we come to expect a lot of that stuff at Bristol. That's one of the reasons it's fantastic. I want to talk about this for a second. Lots of schedule talk going on right now. We've seen in the past year alone, a lot of new ideas have been thrown at the Cup schedule. So I want to ask, what are the biggest factors that a company like Speedway Motorsports looks at when trying to settle on specific tracks for specific dates? Do you guys look at things like start times, weather? Like what are some of the big contributing factors that SMI looks at?
Well, the challenge is you're a whole bunch of different stakeholders that you're trying to make happy. And you look at the sport and, it's not a league. It's a group of kind of independent entities coming together. So, the teams have priorities and needs and things they would like to see in terms of how the weekend is made up and practice sessions and qualifying and when races are held. You've got broadcasters, obviously, who've made a tremendous investment in the sport and want to get it out to as many people as possible. So what are the best available windows there? Most importantly, you have the people who actually are coming to the race. The attendee is the person we really think about first and foremost. So how do we put a race on in a time frame that makes sense as far as the weather goes is really a big factor there. Certain seasons, we've heard a lot of talk about, we wish, we could run, Sonoma. Why don't we make that earlier in the season? We've got rain tires. And, the thing is, if we ran Sonoma early in the season, about half that facility would be underwater because of the flooding and the way it's right next to kind of a marshy area. So there's all those things that go on. And then I talked earlier about tradition. People have their traditions set, and they know Memorial Day weekend, they want to come down to Charlotte. So there's a lot of what's kind of called date equity as far as keeping things relatively the same. So looking at, what's the history been? What's the support been? Have fans been attending? Have we been able to sell tickets is the biggest indicator. So if you're worried about the favorite race you have, either moving in the calendar or going to another race altogether, the best thing you do is buy a ticket and come and support the race, because nobody will ever move a successful event. The reason that events get moved generally, especially if you're abandoning or leaving one venue to another, is because it hasn't been supported. Tickets haven't been sold, camping hasn't been purchased, corporate sponsorship hasn't been there, and it's more advantageous to try to bring a race to another part of the country. And we saw, for example, when we went to Circuit of the Americas, 70% of those people who went to that race were new to our database, who had never bought a ticket from us before. So it was a great chance to introduce the sport to a whole new group of people who'd never been to the racetrack before. So that certainly goes into it when you're evaluating new environments. But generally speaking, if we're at a racetrack, we're going to try to keep it in the same general window that's been in previously, unless there's just been this history of weather. And you've seen that especially in the springtime events where certain parts of the country are more prone to rain than others. So and then you look at it in the bigger picture of how do you create interesting opportunities. The moving the Daytona race, a lot of fans loved it on the 4th of July weekend, but making that the cutoff race for the playoffs adds a whole new level as a fan. The chaos and the craziness and who's going to get it and who's not. The Bristol race this weekend, moving Bristol to a cutoff race, just plays into a track that's a little more unpredictable, a little broader range of winners historically. The Roval, has done as far as a cutoff race, has provided some very dramatic racing and twists and turns. And that's, as a fan, that's what you want. You want something that's interesting, that's entertaining, and that makes sense. Then you have to also balance to some extent travel considerations, and it's this idea of a West Coast swing that makes sense for maybe a golfer who's just carrying his bags. But when you factor in the fact that actually every one of those cars has to go back and forth across the country for every race, the fact that they're all out west, doesn't really benefit a team that much when they've got to, send a hauler halfway back to the country to meet another hauler coming halfway across the country in order to swap out cars so they can go to the next race on the West Coast tour. Some of those things don't always make as much sense as they might when you're just looking at them at a surface level. So you've got all these different stakeholders, you're trying to balance all those different needs. And when you do something, there's always some group of people who are going to be inconvenienced, who loved it the way it was, or who are thrilled about the new thing. So you just try to do the best you can. And the great thing is, if it doesn't work, you change it. So people feel like, oh my gosh, they've made this change. Hey, if we try things, and they don't work out, we're going to try something different. We're not going to just keep doing something that isn't working for us.
That's super duper interesting. Well, SMI has certainly tried a lot of new things just in the last few years alone. This year, Bristol Dirt was a big deal. And you mentioned Circuit of the Americas. I was there. That was super fun to have a track. I live in Texas, close to where I live. That was really fun. But why does it seem like right now, or the last couple of years, why is now the right time to try a lot of these new ideas?
I think in a lot of ways it's the environment has caught up with the desire to change. There's always been, fans have always asked for different opportunities. And you look at an event like Circuit of the Americas, and going through the pandemic and working remotely, we picked up a lot of new skills, and technology has evolved. So we were basically able to create a virtual staff, pulling the best and brightest from all of our different speedways to come to Circuit of the Americas and put that event on. And a lot of that was facilitated because, the internal communications, the nuts and bolts of the internet and file sharing and collaboration tools have evolved, and we've all gotten better at using them. For example, Zoom here, we had a lot of folks who we've been trying to get, what used to be conference calls. We'd be begging and pleading with people to get them on video, and they were just hesitant or couldn't figure it out. Last March, we all figured out how to use Zoom.
Had to.
2 Marches ago, actually. So you figure it out. So the fact that we had better collaborative tools, and the fact that we had the opportunity to say, hey, how can we bring this event to life? We finally got to the point with the team at Circuit of the Americas, we were able to kind of bring back an old idea. When our chairman Bruton Smith started promoting races back when he was a young promoter 60, 70 years ago, that was the model. You went and you rented a facility, you promoted the event, and that's how the promoter did business. So this idea of promoters owning facilities is relatively new. So we kind of took a page out of the old playbook and went and rented another venue and put on an event. And you look at what fans are asking for. Road course racing has been super competitive, and fans have responded well to it. So there was this desire to how do we do more of that. Short track racing, something that fans have looked at, and even dirt racing. We did it 40 years ago. We haven't done it. So hey, let's try something new and different. And we were able to make it work out. I don't think a lot of people realize that there was a month of racing at Bristol. It wasn't just, we brought in dirt the week before the Cup race and we ran it. And no, we had
made the most of it
going on. For about 6 weeks. We had Easter in there, so that threw off a little bit. But making that kind of a dirt mecca for that month, a lot drivers and a lot of teams got the thrill of racing on dirt at Bristol that they never thought they would. So you look at all those things, and again, going back to our founder Bruton Smith, he has been an innovator, he's been a pioneer. He's tried a lot of things. Nobody thought you could race at night with lights. Nobody thought you could build condos. Nobody thought you could build giant TVs. So we're always challenged to how do we bring something new to the table, and something that's we hope is an improvement. Change for change's sake is not great, but if you're improving on something, and a lot of times you don't know if it's going to work until you actually do it. Like I said, you always have that option. If it doesn't work, you can always go back to what you were doing. But we're big believers in trying things and taking chances, and there is no such thing as a fail. It's just a first attempt in learning. It's kind of how we look at it. So sometimes your first attempt works, and sometimes you have to go back to a second attempt. Sometimes you realize, no, we need to go another direction.
Yeah, you can't always be afraid to try new things. But you mentioned earlier, it's all about the at-track experience for the fans. That's what NASCAR's always really been about. So in your experience working in and around the sport, what are some of the at-track promotions or events that you guys have found race fans resonate with the most?
Well, I think as we've gone through and kind of remodeled and rethought our facilities, adding things like the knee trays, putting a tray in front where people can put their food.
I'm a fan of that.
Can have their cooler underneath, a little more room. For better or worse, we've gotten bigger as a society, a larger both growth.
Hey, I'm
and
6 foot. I'm 6'7", man. I appreciate the leg room when I can get it. Yeah.
Yeah. So that has evolved. You look at you have to look at the standards of the entertainment industry, and climbing over 25 people to get to your center seat is just not something that people are used to experiencing when they go to other events. So we've really looked at how do we continue to add to the comfort. People always they always want to be safe, they always want to be clean, they always want to be comfortable. And Jeff Bezos at Amazon says when he looks long term, he doesn't think about what's going to change. He thinks about what's not going to change. So Amazon looks at, they say people are always going to want a bigger selection. They're always going to want cheaper prices, and they're always going to want it to get it as quickly as possible. So those are things that they continue to invest in because they know people are always going to want that. Well, it's kind of the same thing on our side. People are always going to want to be comfortable. So how do we continue to evolve our facility so that people can enjoy racing comfortably? And then you look at behaviors changed, and you talked about Bristol. We've put in a lot of things over the last 2 years that fans really haven't had a chance to experience because of COVID. But now that we can get back together, we can gather together. We've put in a lot more bars and entertainment and hangout spaces that actually overlook the track. So it's not an either or. It's not I want to go get a cocktail or I want to go get a beer and I'm going to miss the race. Well, I can walk up to the bar and turn around and the racing is right there. So we added a bootleggers bar in Atlanta, and we added a bar in Bristol. So opportunities like that have changed. And just trying things out, asking fans, what do you want, and trying to give it to them and then see how they respond. And again, doing more of the things that fans like, and trying new ideas with the space that maybe is underutilized.
That's super interesting. Well, appreciate your time today, Mike. Really interesting conversation so far. But one of the most interesting things I've seen this week, Speedway Motorsports launched an all-new NFT marketplace focused on race fans. It sounds pretty cool, but I got to admit, I'm pretty new to when it comes to understanding NFTs and things like that. So you're probably the better person to talk about it. What can you tell fans about this new opportunity?
Well, really, an NFT is really kind of nothing but a digital collectible. And all the technology and everything that goes underneath it is just a way to kind of make your digital asset unique. Whereas before, kind of a copy of or a picture of something, you could reproduce that, perfectly digitally. So there wasn't really any way you could say this was a specifically unique asset. Where with NFTs, basically you're saying we're taking this digital asset that you can replicate, but now we're assigning it and locking into a specific identification number to it. So just like any other collectible. So that's all really NFTs are digitally identifiable collectibles. And race fans have always been big on collectibles. So as we've moved into a new realm with digital ticketing and digital event programs, and more of our life became digital, NFTs have become a much more kind of popular idea as a way to create a new collectible. And we first saw it with the NBA with their Top Shots program, where basically you could buy a highlight that was uniquely yours. So there might be 10,000 of them, and you might have number 657 of 10,000. So we thought, well, let's see, what the digital space might look like for racing, and most importantly, we, since we're on the promoter side, let's look at the assets we have. So yesterday we issued 10,000 collectible tickets for the night race. There were 9,500 kind of standard editions, and then randomly we put 500 gold editions that people could go and claim, and we sold out of those. So now 10,000 people have a nice digital collectible of the Bristol night race ticket. On Thursday, you're actually going to be able to buy a collectible of the sword that the winner gets. So we'll have cool. 500 of those that at 1 o'clock we're going to put on sale. And then if you're at the race this weekend, look for the QR codes that will allow you to download your own NFT, kind of a cool picture of the Coliseum, the last great Coliseum. We like to refer to Bristol as a kind of a digital collectible proof that you were there. There'll be 2,500 of those, and again, each one will be individually numbered. And then what I think is a really cool idea is we're gonna mint, when you create an NFT, it's called minting them. We're gonna do 2 digital coins commemorating the race winner. And we're gonna give one to the winner of the race, and then we're gonna auction the other one off. So there'll only be 2 of these digital coins in the world. One will be held by the race winner, and one will be held by the winning bidder. So I think that's kind of a cool way. And really the opportunities for these are unlimited, because you can start to do fun things with them and make them interact with each other in terms of, well, if you hold the ticket and you were at the race, that could unlock a third collectible. Or if you hold this collectible, we might be able to translate that into access, at a meet and greet with a driver, or into a special access area. So we're really just scratching the surface. And we thought, let's try to create a place where everybody, can go and make this kind of the hub for motorsports. And it's still we're not even at the first competition caution in the NFT race. So we still got a long way to go. And we always figure there's no better way than to learn. So we launched this model. This will be available for all 4 of our playoffs. That same general model. The Monday of race night day, you'll do the 10,000 tickets, and you'll be able to buy the commemorative. You'll be able to get an at-track one, and then we'll do the winners edition at every race. And we've already learned a lot from just yesterday. So, creating a marketplace now for people who did get the ticket, they could actually go and resell it. Learned a lot about the process. So it'll get better every time out, and we'll see where it ends up.
Yeah, that sounds really cool. Really neat opportunity for fans going to the Bristol night race. Well, thank you so much for your time. Thanks for being on the show. And I think fans, I know I'm excited. I know most fans watching are very excited about the Bristol night race playoff cutoff. Hope it's a great show, and we'll see you again real soon.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Eric. Great to talk to you.